Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to the show. Okay, before we start today, I just wanted to tell you one thing. Thank you so much for all of the feedback and the love and the support and the excitement about the launch of this podcast. I can't tell you how relieved I feel to have this out in the open, that I'm no longer keeping this a secret, and that also it feels like it's something that you all are excited about and are really ready to help me build this together. Truly, that is my intention behind the show, is just to be able to connect more and just talk about things that are going on in real life and answer, of course, all the questions that you have. So if you haven't already and you can think of a question that you would like answered, and maybe something that's, not like, what pair of shoes is that? But, I love those questions. But thinking about, okay, what things are going on in your life? What areas do you feel stuck in? What areas seem like they're not really flowing, especially when it comes to health and wellness and thinking about your food? And maybe it's something with meal prep. Maybe it's something with the people around you. Maybe it's something that you feel like you keep kind of getting in your own way. There's so many options, right? Maybe it's something physically about your body. So start to think about what that may be for you. And I would love to know, so that we can answer them. And again, do it in a way that's a little bit more, realistic, shall we say, and kind of some different strategies and tips that you can think about in your own life. Okay. So thank you guys for sharing this show. Like I said, it's, I'm doing this as a test for a year and we'll just see. So I love having you along this process. We're going to build this together and I'm so excited to see what it turns into. All right, so let's jump in with our very first question. And it's one that I get asked all the time, especially when I start working with people, whether that's in my group program in Simply Real Life, or it's with private clients, or it's through other things. Like maybe somebody just, got the baby food files and they're looking at it and thinking okay, I'm totally on board for this. I'm into real food. I want to eat better. I want to start cleaning things up a little bit more, but I don't want to make it extreme. And I'm starting to look at things in my pantry. I'm starting to, think about my day, the things I grab. So the question today is, what do you do when you yourself are feeling great about taking steps to becoming healthier? And maybe, specifically we can say maybe eating healthier. Let's just start with that micro example and topic. But the people around you, maybe those in your house, are not on board. And when I say people, this could be a partner, this could be somebody, maybe your own kids. Chances are, if you're listening to this and you are a part of Simply Real Health as a community, chances are that you have probably done a few other things in the past, especially when it comes to food or diets or how you're eating or different tactics or strategies. When you come to them and start explaining okay, I'm doing this new thing. It's real food. We just got to look at the ingredient labels and see, what's actually in the food as opposed to what it's marketed, on the front of the label. The people around you likely are going to be skeptical because likely they have probably been through this with you before, maybe a few different times. And while you may know that this is different because it is sustainable and we're not taking out entire categories of food or saying avoid certain foods, it's just about upgrading the quality of the food that you're eating, right? And starting to look at labels and, starting to just educate yourself, the education that we never get in school. while you know that this is a different approach and it is something that is sustainable and that you can do for the long haul and includes all kinds of categories of food and, really beautiful foods, frankly, like eating more butter and putting those on your vegetables and Parmesan cheese and just thinking about things not in terms of, lack and less and dieting. It's always about minimizing and what you can't eat, whereas real food is this perspective that really broadens things up. And you'll know that if you've listened to my story with food, that starting to eat real food gave me so much more freedom with my food and with my life, just what I was cooking and eating and doing. It just opened up so many categories I always thought were maybe quote unquote bad for you because they're bad for you. That's labeled by different diets. So while you know this is sustainable, the people you're around maybe don't know that. They think this is just another thing that you're doing. So here's how I would approach this. Number one, this is all about how you are approaching it. This is about your energy behind what you're doing, which I'm a huge believer in. So as you start to think of this change, right, and that you are becoming this new version of yourself, you are choosing things that are different and more, easier for your body to digest and kinder and a little bit more, have a little bit more freedom and fun to your food and to your relationship to food. So this is all how you approach it. Now, if you go in and you become, the one who's like preaching and saying, we can't eat this, we're going to throw everything out in the pantry, like this is bad food, you're really just shaming them. That doesn't feel good for anyone, right? So my approach and the advice I always give to people is like, play it cool. Okay? I know this may be hard at first, but I believe in you. You can do it. Play it cool. Play it cool, play it calm, and make the changes first for you. And while you may be in charge of the food in your house, that is likely the case, you do not need to push your agenda. You do not need to push the things that you're learning. In fact, that is going to drive everyone around you crazy, and it's actually going to have the opposite effect of what you want, which is for them to become slowly and slightly curious in what you're doing. But you want them to start noticing that something is different with you. You are happier, you are kinder, you are more patient, probably because your blood sugar is more stable. Probably because you're getting actually nourished for maybe the first time in your life, where things just feel much more peaceful internally. I will tell you that that is the sexiest thing. That is the thing that draws people to you like a magnet, especially when they start to get curious of like, wow, I noticed this difference in them. Where is that coming from? Well, I guess they've been, eating a little bit differently. And I swear, you guys, I know this sounds crazy, but it's so true. I've been working with families and with women and with couples for over 15 years. And I give this advice almost every time, even when people used to come to me for their kids and say, my kids are not eating anything, like they're not eating healthy, like what do I do? I say, start with you first and just keep the blinders on. I know it sounds a little selfish, but in the end, what will happen is this beautiful trickle-down effect that you really can't get anywhere else. So number one, play it cool. Do not force, do not push. Do not become this judgmental Judy, like looking through all your stuff and throwing out their favorite things. It's just going to have the opposite effect of what you want. For the people around you, they're probably used to you coming maybe with like things that are a little extreme, maybe just a wild guess that you've done something extreme in the past with your eating or with your health or with your workouts. And you want to show them like, this is different. This is about the long game here. Okay, so being that example, there is nothing that will get people more curious about what you're doing and eating than being cool about it. I know it may be hard. Focus on yourself, do the things for you, and usually within 2 weeks, you are going to feel noticeably different the more you start to take out the chemicals and the additives and all the gums and the emulsifiers and the processed stuff. Like all of that weighs you down. It makes you cranky. It makes your blood sugar crazy. So the more you start to streamline and elevate your food, thinking about just cleaner and more simple foods all across the board, whether that's for dessert or your cocktails or it's for dinner or breakfast or snack, It doesn't matter. That cumulative effect of what you're doing is noticeable usually within 2 weeks. So if you have people in your house, I know that there's different situations, right? So if let's take the example of maybe it's your partner and they're like maybe on board, kind of, at least they're supportive of you doing what you want to do. And they're down to kind of, eat whatever you're eating. That's great, right? If they start asking questions, perfect. You can answer them. You can talk about them. And maybe that's something that you guys can start to do together. If they don't, I'm sure that they will at some point, so you just keep doing your thing and don't push. Do not push. You being the best version of yourself, feeling the most energized, feeling the most healthy, feeling like you have the most patience, right, to deal with your kids or the craziness or the chaos going around you. When you become kind of that grounding rod, for yourself, and therefore it starts to affect your family in a positive way. Like when somebody is steady through the storm and can kind of navigate all the chaos around you, it becomes this like magical thing. So even by saying not one word, you taking, this action for yourself will by default have these amazing downstream effects for your whole family, for your whole household, by doing nothing else than that. However, be so curious, what you are doing, especially when this is over time. We're thinking about this. This is a long-term thing, okay? There's no rush here. But slowly, as you're starting to look at food and maybe upgrade some of your favorite snacks and your favorite meals and the ingredients in your pantry, you're probably going to start cooking with those things a little more. And then what do you know? Like then the people around you are kind of by default starting to incorporate a little bit more real foods by not doing much, if you're already doing it for yourself. Let's take the example of kids, right? So if they start to see one of their parents, starting to make these green smoothies in the morning or for lunch or snack or whatever, you're making it on the weekend, don't say one word about it. Don't say one word. They are going to want to try it. Okay, it may not be the first time, it may not be the 10th time, maybe the 20th, but sooner or later they are going to be curious. Like, what are you doing? What are you drinking? And while it may look green, my recipes are like, they taste so good. So one sip, like most kids will be like in, So there's just a tiny example of like how you can start not thinking about going through and taking stuff away or out of your household, but you're going in and starting to just elevate the things that are there and make them more nourishing and make them more nutrient dense and make them more real food. And slowly, slowly, slowly over time, the impact that will have is huge. And that's always what I suggest. It's what I do. Kyle, if you're listening, now he knows my secret. Just play it cool, baby. So I hope that this helps and gives you a little bit of encouragement that what you are doing, the tiny little things that you're doing every day do add up. And whether that's with workouts, whether that's with your food, whether that's with, thinking about wanting to change your habits as a family or for your kids or for your partner, for your roommates, for your loved ones, this could apply too to like extended family and thinking about social events and thinking about things like you do you. That means you can bring the dish that you want to eat, like bring an amazing salad or a great appetizer, or maybe you bring a side dish that that if nothing else is there at that event. A, you are helping the host, which everybody loves. B, that there's something great that's of real food that you can feel great about eating. The more you keep showing up with these amazing food options, the more curious people are going to be. And when it comes from a point of curiosity versus feeling like people are being judged for their own actions or how they're eating or the food that they have around, the impact of that is pretty magical. So think about that. You are just the center, starting, grounding force. And think of the impact of everybody around you, extended family and friends and in your social circle and for your kids or your family or your partner or for your friends. I have so many friends that have been like, wow, because of you, over the last 10, 15 years, the things that we buy and do are so different than how we used to, but it was never like a pushy thing. You never, it's like you'll only answer when we ask you a question. I'm like, yep, I know. That's on purpose. So that is my answer to the Q, the A to the Q. I hope that it's helpful. Hope it gives you something to think about. And remember, just, play it cool. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. And if you have other questions that pop in your head, as you're listening, please send them to me over at Simply Real Health on Instagram. You can send me a DM. And then once a week, I usually post a question box where I'm going to be capturing all of these questions so that we can address them in future shows. All right. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next week. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.